Right, last one. How many times have I said last one?
It's fine. I'm having a blast.
Welcome back to the show. John and I are having a bit of a blast here on, I was about to say 40 metres, but we're on StreamYard, as it so happens. When it's not live streaming, we're recording. So, now listen, if you are new at this game, you will be bombarded with messages. Messages in magazines, messages on, well, particularly EHAM forums. And for God's sake, don't ask a question on EHAM unless you know the answer. Because how many times have I read, I've got a G5 RV and I'm thinking of doing this to it. The answer is generally, why would you want to do that? I don't get it.
Excuse me, with EHAM or any of the forums,
yeah,
you're going to end up with, 100 different opinions for 99 guys. And it's the trick is trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
So I will tell you this, the best thing to do when you're new starting out is find a local club and somebody that's there that has a lot of experience that you trust, and other people that tell you, yeah, that's a good guy to talk to, and no, that's not a good guy to talk to. And that's a way to get started. And, of course, you have YouTube out there, and there's volumes and volumes of stuff.
Yeah.
The ARRL has their...
Just know when to read between the lines. And by the way, the guy at the local club, the most sociable guy with all the opinions, might not be the right guy.
Might not be the guy.
It's the guy who doesn't say a lot. You want to find him.
Yep.
Because he might know it all.
Look for the guy everybody's going to ask questions from.
Yeah. Just watch.
Yep. If you have a guy, and we've got a guy in the club that's like that here, that everybody goes to ask him questions. And when you see that guy, that's the guy you want to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, because usually he's got the answers.
Well, so now we're going to come on to our tips. John doesn't know I'm asking him this, right? But I'll give you some tips. The tips that I want to give him, John, and then you can either sanity check me or come up with some of your own. But if you're brand new, you got all these messages. What kit to buy? What is the best coax? And it actually worries you. It worried me. It's like, well, I'm doing it all wrong, So you want to keep it simple, okay? Because it is actually a simple hobby. John and I make it sound complicated because, we're kind of pushing various limits and phasing harnesses and all sorts of stuff. But at the end of the day, you can keep it simple with a bit of coax and a dipole and a radio, all right? But what I wanted to say is, when I first started off, I looked in the catalogue or on the web, whatever it was, and I found the cheapest coax on the planet, okay? And it was called RG58 because someone had told me that's fine, all right? And I thought I was getting out and hearing people. It's not until I replaced it with some really nice stuff I realised that, this is on VHF as well. I was getting out, really far. So, so I just want to say that coax, I do replace my coax, but it's normally because I've got another job on and I want to extend it or something. But in the main, I replace less coax now than I ever did because I'm buying extortionately expensive stuff that shouldn't need replacing for 20 years, So just invest in your coax. And the other thing, I'll pass over to John in a minute. If you buy unbranded coax, but it says it's RG213 or whatever, you don't actually know what you're getting. Okay, it's made in a factory who don't care about you or a reputation. It just says RG213. It might say /U. It might say blooming anything on it. But unless it's from a brand that you can double check on the internet, is this a real factory with a reputation? So I'd spend twice as much on the coax as you thought you had in your budget, okay, and save somewhere else in your budget. What do you say about coax, John?
Well, the antenna system is the most important part of your station. Can't emphasize that enough, okay? The antenna is one thing, but getting back from the antenna to the shack is the other piece of that antenna system.
Jigsaw.
And Callum is exactly right. spend your money on your antenna and on your coax. The radio, if you get a good radio, and pretty much anything today made, modern radios are all good radios. Yes, some have more bells and whistles than others, but you're going to get the biggest bang of buck from your antenna system, coax, and your antenna. That's the whole game. It really is.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, when you look through the catalogs, you look through the magazines, they're all going to tell you this is the best antenna, right? This is the best antenna. Now, quite frankly, if you can get height, a monoband dipole is a great antenna, right? Every antenna is a compromise. So when you start talking about a G5RV, it's a compromised antenna. Even a quarter wave vertical is not monobanded is as good as you're going to get, right, for a vertical antenna. You're sure you can go 5/8 wave. We can debate those, but a simple antenna is going to be much better than a complex antenna for the most part. Now, when you start talking about Yagis or log periodics, sure, but again, you're talking a lot of money, and you're going to be investing in a support system for that antenna. When you start out, keep it simple, right?
Dead simple.
Find an antenna that you can afford, that works well, does what you want it to do, and buy the best coax you can do. Buy once, cry once, instead of making a mistake like I made the mistakes. I can tell you, I had gear acquisition syndrome, or gas as I call it, where I just had to have this, and I had to have that, and I had to have this. And fortunately for me, I had disposable income. So Jesus, I went out and spent a ton of money. And now looking back over the 6 or 7 years, I'm sitting, man, why the hell did I buy that? What was I thinking? And most of it, some of it it's good gear, but it's just not exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to be giving that away. But yeah, start simple, but buy the best you can afford.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Let's just talk about this radio. Okay, because to be honest, I could probably use any radio if it works, just as effectively as I could any other. All right, if it works. All right. So now I happen to want at least 100 watts. I'm that sort of guy. All right, so I need a 100-watt radio. All right, but you could go back 15 years, 8, 9, 7, TS2000. You could go back further and further and further. Kenwood TS850s and stuff. Well, right back to that. I wouldn't recommend you got the old valve equipment unless it was your thing, and you just like that stuff, all right? But if it was my first radio, I'd either accept a donation from John, frankly, right? Or it's someone at the club who's prepared to kind of warranty. They say, I haven't used this radio for a couple of years, but you can have it for $200, And if it works for a month, it's yours. If it breaks, give it, but we'll reverse the deal out. As long as it can, if it works for a month, then it's yours. But anyway, the only radio I discovered that I had a bit of a problem, bit of tough with, and you are never gonna suffer this as I did, is that on a field day on 40 meters in Europe, you've got all the Russians and the Germans and the Italians coming right over the top of my head trying to get the US. So, and I'm not joking, some of these stations are running 15 kilowatts, And they couldn't, some of these stations can't hear me on like 500 watts. I don't know what they do. They've got that much power. Therefore, my rig was getting desensitive. This was a TS2000, but I think any radio, well, maybe an FT1000MP wouldn't have done it, but he was 5 kilohertz away, and the radio would just go, the S meter would just go,
yep,
died on me. What's going on? But it's just too much voltage, basically, coming into the radio. Now, I didn't think at the time of sticking the attenuator on and backing off the RF gain. I don't know if that would have helped at the time, but anyway. But other than that, you could give me any radio, I'd make it work. So there we go.
The thing about radios, if you learn how to run a radio, I don't care whether it's a Yaesu, an ICOM, a Kenwood, an SDR radio, it doesn't matter. learn the basic functions, learn how your digital noise reduction works, learn how your RF gain works, learn how your notch filters work, learn how your RIT, your PBT, whatever you want to call all the different bells and whistles. Go through the manual, listen on the radio, play with those features,
Functions,
and
yeah.
learn what they do, right?
Yeah.
And then, everybody's going to have a different layout on a radio. I'm comfortable with the radios I run on a regular basis, but you can sit in front of an Elecraft and say, oh, okay, I need a notch filter. Oh, there's the button for the notch filter, and this is what it does. Same thing, attenuators, all those things. The biggest mistake some beginners don't learn quickly enough is the RF gain, right?
Yeah.
RF gain and AF, your volume, right?
Yeah.
You want to be riding those things, right? So you want to use the RF gain, maybe got a weak station, try to gain a little bit, quiet things down in the background, and then you start to up your volume in your headphones or in your radio. I recommend you run with headphones, but you use those in combination, and then you got your digital noise reduction. You can use those bags of tricks. But once you learn what the functions of a radio do, then you can sit in front of any set. As long as you can see the button or know where it's at in the menu, you can run it. And even if it's a simple radio, an 891 from Yaesu or a 7300 from ICOM, TS590, it doesn't matter. A 718 even. You can sit in front of that radio and you know how to operate the radio. Read the manual, understand what the features and functions do, and then the world opens up to you. Yep.
And then you're saying, so once you've learned one radio, your very first radio, you'll be able to transpose those ideas and thoughts and techniques to the next one, won't you?
Yeah, it's just learn the radio you have, go through the manual. And again, when you upgrade radios, when you go from, a entry-level radio to a mid-level radio to a flagship radio, you're going to get more features, right? So you learn those as you go. I wouldn't expect somebody to sit in front of a 7300 and then plop them in front of a Elecraft 4D, and they're going to understand the whole radio. No. But the basics of operation between a 7300 or a 718 and an Elecraft, D4 or a 101 MP or a 990, the basics are all there. So learn the basics, and then it's just a matter of finding it on the radio, whether it's in a menu, and you can look at the manual for 5-10 minutes and you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah.
So we got our antenna, which we're going to keep simple. We're going to spend some money on coax, unless you want to go down the whole balanced feeder route, but then you're going to need an ATU. Let's steer away from that for the time being.
Yeah.
That's if you want to get on 80 and 160. Yeah, it's worthwhile. Maybe it's a future entry. I mean, I've had to play at that. I've got a big 80 4K, from Palstar, and I did have a big couplet.
Too.
Yeah, I could use a ballad, couldn't you? A bit of coax, yeah. So, okay. So if we've got the kit, now we've got you as a person, the newbie, right? Eyes wide open. And there's two types of people. Well, there's a lot more than that, thank God. John's completely different to me. You'd be pleased to hear it. But there's the guy that allows himself to be pushed around a bit, the newbie, all right? So you're on 40 meters and you've made a bit of a boo-boo. You've made a mistake, whatever. You forgot to say it's the frequency in use or whatever, and someone has a go at you, all right? Well, you take it. If you have made a mistake, you go, oh, I'm sorry about it. You just be straight. Sorry about that. I'll move. Absolutely right. It's all my fault. M0, MCX. My name's Callum from Birmingham, by the way. I'm off. Tremendous, respect for you, But even people, old timers, will sometimes having a go at you when you haven't made a mistake, all right? And then you get all a bit confused, and it can be a lonely hobby because you're on your own and you haven't got any mates and whatever. But you've got to have a little bit of grit and bottle and fight your ground if you feel your ground should be fought with, And if you watch I think some of my live streams are quite good for this because occasionally I get myself into a pickle because I haven't taken a pill that day or whatever. But occasionally I'm bullied or somebody tries to bully me, and I stick my ground, In fact, actually, there's the tip, John. Watch some of my, not all my live streams, but, dip in and out of some of my live streams just to see how somebody else does it. That's good.
I mean, when you're beginning, right, you're going to make mistakes. Realize that. Okay. Don't be afraid to make a mistake.
No.
You might get somebody who tries to bully you. You know what? You have two choices.
That's their problem, not yours.
You can try to fight them, or you can just turn the dial, right?
Yeah.
If you truly make a mistake, and I've seen people make mistakes, like Callum said, you'd forget to ask frequency and use, and you only hear one side of a conversation, and you blurt over somebody. Apologize and move on. Mm-hmm. But if you get somebody, and we had this happen to a friend of mine, he made a mistake, and he was a general, and he was 3 kc out of the band width that he was allowed to operate. And he got an email from a guy who was not part of the conversation, berating this guy and asking what he's going to do to rectify the situation. And I'm like, there's nothing you can do to rectify a situation other than don't make that mistake again. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the contact's made, you're off the air. This email came in a week late. So me being the guy I am, went back to the guy and I said, okay, I understand you want to make this guy aware that he was out of band. That's fantastic. But what the hell's the point of you berating the guy in this email? I mean, you didn't sign what you call sign. You didn't come in and try to correct him on air. You just sent him an email and made the guy feel that. What's your point? Are you the police base, the band police, basically?
Yeah, the band police.
And I never did hear anything back from the guy.
No, you wouldn't have done. No. Mind you, I see, if somebody had done that to me, I would have responded to go, oh, yeah, sorry about that. By the way, could I have a second report? What was my audio like?
The other piece of that is a lot of new hams. And the digital modes take a little bit out of this, is people get mic fright, right?
Yeah, okay.
They're afraid to get on the air. And I understand that piece of it because it's that fear of making a mistake, right? I'm not doing this right.
Yeah.
Don't be that person, because if you don't get on air, you're never going to get on air.
Yeah.
Now, if you're uncomfortable calling CQ, if you got a good system set up and you got your antenna set up and you hear somebody calling CQ, whether it's stateside, DX, whatever, listen to how he's operating and say, okay, he's just taking signal reports and bouncing and going, or he's doing a 1 or 2 over like Callum does on his live streams.
Yeah. That's it. Name
just once you hook him, you put your call sign out there, put it out one time, let your call sign go. And if he comes back to you, then, play by his rules. It's his show at that point in time. Right?
Yeah.
But that'll give you confidence and build up. Okay, I'm doing things the right way.
That's it.
And then find some friends if you have a local club or whatever, and get on a local net, whether it's a 10-meter net or whatever, or check into a net. That's a way to gain confidence as well.
Okay.
Is it gives you time in the chair operating, and then you start calling CQ. And granted, 100-watt station, you're going to get some people coming back to you, but maybe not a lot of people. But sound like you're excited to be there.
Yeah.
When you're calling CQ, just don't CQ. Be happy about being on the radio. Be grateful about having the opportunity. Yeah. And you'd be surprised how many people will come back to you.
You will. Yeah. Well, I was a 100-watt station. Yeah. But I would call CQ enthusiastically, I think you would say.
Yeah. There's a great video by Jim Heath, W6LG.
There is,
called CQ. And it's funny because, just short story, I was actually calling CQ and Jim calls me, right?
Oh, no.
W6LG calls me. He says, boy, you did a great job calling CQ. And I didn't realize who it was at first. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. And then I said, well, my name's John. At that point in time, I was Kilo Echo 4 Papa Lima Tango. I says, great to meet you. I'm here in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And he said, well, this is Jim, W6LG in Rockland, California. And I went, Jim, the YouTube guy? And he goes, I said, well, I've learned to call CQ from you. Right. So it was fantastic. We had a great conversation. Yeah. Fantastic guy. I'm sorry he's in poor health and I don't know how long he's going to be with us. But
we had a call like this a couple of months ago, Jim and I.
Yeah. Jim's good people, and my 2 mentors when I started out, from YouTube were you and Jim. Those were the two guys that I actually followed. There's tons of us out there to do YouTube stuff, but it's funny. You gravitate to people who have a personality, right?
Yeah, the enthusiastic ones. Yeah, certainly. I mean, personality. Yeah. Sometimes today, it's a couple of days after Christmas right now, and it feels like I've had a personality bypass. But, I think that's the red wine and all the turkey. Yep. Last thing, John, do you think if they got mic fright, it's worthwhile on a piece of paper just reminding themselves what they got to do, like name, QTH, signal report, just so they can quickly look down, they haven't missed
absolutely.
Something. Yeah.
And, what I do is I log on QRZ.
Okay.
So when I put somebody's call sign into QRZ, it pops up with their page. Yeah. And if they've got something on that page, while they're coming back to me, I quickly scan down and I look for something that we might have in common, or I may say, hey, your shack looks great, or, hey, you're into cars. Well, what kind of cars are you into? Yeah. And that helps the conversation grow, right? Yeah. Now, granted, that's for rag chewing than it is kind of a couple quick overs. Yeah. But, it's the easiest thing to do is get a signal report, get the name and maybe the equipment they're running, and then give them that same information back. If something blooms from that, great. But if you can access the QRZ page, like for me, military guys, if I see somebody served in the military, I always thank them for the service, or if they're a firefighter or policeman,
nice.
Thank them for their service. And, that's just, being courteous to them, and it shows them you respect them, and they come back. And then, if you get a new guy, like I tend to be a magnet for new people when I'm on the radio. So, if somebody's
a nice guy.
When the new call sign,
nice guy.
If somebody says, KQ call sign in the US, I know they're fairly newly licensed or KN. And I'll say, how long you been licensed? And, that kind of thing. And you're doing a great job, and you sound like you're a seasoned pro. Or if you're having a little bit of struggle, I help them with their, might give them a few tips or help them a little bit. Yeah. But, it's all about being nice.
John, before we pull the anchor in today, that was some good advice for the newbies. But as a little message I want to give to the old boys here, right? John's just reminded me there. If you do hear a new person on, just remember what it was like when you were new, okay? And try and give a slightly more encouragement this year than you did last year. What are you doing to make a little bit of an impact? I've got a video coming out soon. It might already be out, actually, by the time people watch this, about what they're doing in Croatia. Okay, we had Mirko on the channel. They've got hundreds of young contesters under 25. 13-year-olds doing CW. Fantastic. The reason they've got that far is that someone somewhere has put a little bit of effort in. Now, I do my bit, okay? John does his bit. Challenge yourself. What are you doing? How are you helping? All you need to do, if you hear a new person, give them the time of day and just give them a little bit more confidence that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, be an ambassador for amateur radio. Show them how cool it is, and show them it's fun, right? Yeah. Because the last thing you want to do is invest all the time you did in studying and, all the money you've put into the system, and you get out there and it's nothing but a bunch of yahoos who are berating you, right?
Yeah.
It's no fun. You're going to go away very quickly. That's why I hate Facebook forums and those kind of things, because there's a lot of guys out there who are very big men behind the keyboard.
Yeah, I know.
And will absolutely, why don't you, how'd you pass the test kind of stuff? Yeah. You know what? That's not the right answer. The right answer is, hey, he's asking a question, even though it may be a simple question and he should know the answer. Be nice, be courteous, be respectful, give him the answer he's looking for. Right.
Yeah.
And what does it hurt to be nice? Nothing.
It actually feels good. Yeah. It feels good to be nice.
I love helping people.
If it doesn't feel good, you being nice to someone, I think you need to be on more pills.
Well, and if you're happy making people miserable, take a look in the mirror. Take a look in the mirror.
Oh, I know.
The intentional QRMers, those kind of guys.
I know.
I'm not happy, so I'm going to make everybody else unhappy.
Yeah, and that's the reason. Yeah. let us not delay you any further, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day. And no doubt you'll see more videos of John and I on them because we've done about 6 today. 73, adios. See you next time.
Best to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
2 hours. We've done, I don't know, I think we've done 6 or 7.
Yeah, something like that. But fantastic stuff, Callum.
And he's still NJ4. Did you choose NJ4Z?
Actually, it was a happy thing. I was looking for a shorter call sign. My old call sign was KE4PLT.
Yeah.
And when I got my extra, I wanted something shorter because I kind of chased the X a little bit, and that short helps in contesting too.
Yeah.
I picked the day where in the US you have to go through a lottery to get the 2x1s because there's so few of them. And so I picked the day where there was a website that you can see all the expiring call signs, and there were 18 expiring that day.
Wow.
So I ranked my choices 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way down to 18.
Yeah.
Sent the form in, and fortunately for me, my third choice was NJ4Z. I wanted a 4 call because I'm in 4 land here.
Yeah, 4 land.
In the US. So the Southeast is basically 4 area. We have 0 through 9. And each one is broken up in different areas. They don't require you to have, you can have a 0 and a 4 land or whatever now. But I wanted a 4 because I was in 4. And so there were 4 or 5 of them, and this was my third choice, and I got lucky and got the call. And it's fun because it's a good call for CW as well. It's easy to tap out. So, yeah.
And that's how we got the call sign.
I can't tell you how much I love this hobby. And how much I love amateur radio. I mean, I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I love learning, and I like people.